Noah, you remember this place?
Oh, now you actually needed a door? Yeah. You need this a door now?
Yeah.
Oh, you put a door here? I don't remember having a door.
So this was all one very small bedroom from here over. It was only like 8.5 or 9 feet that way and 9 feet this way. Very small. So we decided to add this addition on here and make this the master bedroom. And then we took half of this space here and made a little walk-in closet. So then I also decided, because there's 7-foot ceilings up here, so I decided to put cathedral ceilings up here. And again, recessed lights everywhere. I always love recessed lights. These are the 3-inch ones. So this is the master bedroom here. The floors upstairs are all engineered hardwood. And then downstairs they're wood-looking tile, so that kind of matches. A lot of details in this house that you don't even really think about. You can see how I put that wall there for that extra space inside of the bathroom there. That was just wasted space because it was just a tall ceiling over top of stairs. So I just made enough headroom there. And then built a platform, and that way there's a whole bunch of space that would have just been kind of wasted otherwise. I mean, if there was a couple windows there, that would have been a good use of space, but the addition ends somewhere right here, so the windows there didn't really make sense. This is more functional too. Not gonna lie, when I first moved into this house, I definitely made some very poor decisions. But then later on down the road, where I started doing jobs and started learning more stuff about different parts of construction, like tiling and plumbing, that's something that I learned as I was living in this house. So then I kind of would cringe when I go back to the original things that I did, but everything has been redone since then. So the only thing that I don't really like that I should have changed right from the beginning was these windows. These are casement windows, and I put these in because they're egress. The whole window opens, but they have grids in them which don't match all the rest of the windows in the house. So I have, I think, 5 of these windows in, and I got them off of a job, and they were egress windows, so that's why I put them in. But if I had to do it over again, I would definitely just buy new ones. The new owners could take this glass, they could just get a new pane with no grids in it. So it can be done. It's just, I should have just put the right windows in to begin with.
Wait, what about the basement? You didn't show the basement.
How is the basement down there? I don't want to step down there without shoes.
So this basement, when I got this house, had like 2 feet of just junk and dirt piled up everywhere. I did not know that there was a concrete floor in here. I actually started laying footings on the ground, like that one, because I thought it was ground. I didn't realize it was concrete. So I laid that there, and then a few weeks later I kept digging and discovered that there was actually a concrete floor underneath all the junk. This is the addition here. This is the radiant heat that we installed in a video last year. This is all the new addition here. The foundation is actually a poured foundation, and for 1890, it's very rare because they didn't even have concrete back then. I think it was just called cement. And you can see there's no rebar, there's just giant rocks in here. It's 13 inches thick. So if you guys aren't into the talking thing, now is probably the time to click on a different video because it's just going to be talking from here on out. I just want to tell the story of how this came about. So I'm going to start right at the beginning. Back in 2012, I think, is when I bought this house. The guy that I bought it from held the mortgage for me. So he actually purchased this from the tax auction. He bought it for $3,500, and then he sold it to me for 30 grand. But that 30 grand was with paying it over 5 years, and it also included all of the finance charges. So it was just $500 a month, and that $500 a month included everything except for the taxes. So there was no interest on top of that. So I think I had it for about 3 years, and then I told him that I wanted to pay it off. So I think there was like 12 grand left to pay off, and I asked him if he would take 10 grand, and he said yeah. So we just closed on it with 10 grand cash, and that was the end of that. And then from that point on, I was the actual owner of the house on the deed. So when I first got this house, it was in such poor shape that you could not live in here. So the first thing I did was went through and gutted the entire house, took all the walls and ceilings off, and then I started to run some electric. At the time, I was not a licensed electrician, but I was working for somebody else that was, so they helped me out with that. So to give you an idea of how broke I was back at that point in my life, I was literally using materials off of jobs that I would bring home. The reason that I actually bought this house was because the foundation and the roof line looked very good. They looked straight, and square, and true, and plumb. So I figured the rest of the house I don't really care about, as long as the roof line is good and the foundation is good. I was very surprised to see that the foundation was poured, being that it was built in 1890. So the first thing that I did was put a new roof on this house. Now, the old roof was so bad that it was leaking everywhere inside, and there wasn't even any plywood. It was just planks, and they had spaces in between them. And the people that put the shingles on literally were missing the boards with the nails, so there's like loose nails everywhere. The shingles were so badly degraded that they were just disintegrating off of the roof. So the first thing I did was tear everything off of there, put plywood on the whole roof, and then shingle it, and the roof was brand new and done. So at the same time I was doing that, I was also tearing apart the walls and framing in for new windows and putting new electric in. I don't really have any video, and I barely have any pictures of that moment. And basically the first room that I got done was this room right here, which at the time was the bigger bedroom, so we considered that the master bedroom. It came with 3 bedrooms. This was the bigger one, this was the medium-sized one, and then this was a very small one. So the first thing I did was renovate this room enough to the point where I could get an inspection for the electrical and I could close up the walls. And so I did that, and I got an inspection for the insulation and closed these walls up. And then I came in here and I made a quick little bathroom. At the time I did the work on this bathroom, I didn't know enough about plumbing to really do the right thing, so I ended up doing the plumbing, and then I ended up redoing it actually twice after that. The first time I redid the plumbing because the waste pipes weren't properly in, and I had to like box out up there for the vent, and it was silly. So then I redid it, and then I actually put tiles in the bathroom, and then I realized later on that the bathroom was just too small because this wall was brought all the way out, so there was only like 4 feet of space in here, so it wasn't enough. The toilet was like almost against the shower there, and actually that was a tub at the time, so I since then converted it to a shower, which is 4 feet wide instead of 5. So I did the plumbing 3 times in here, and I renovated it twice. Basically, I renovated it the first time, and then I tore everything out again later on and put in these tiles and put in this surround for the shower. And I also did this the last time around too. So once I got the plumbing just roughly installed in here, I figured that we could live in here. So we moved in here and we lived in just this room. And all we had was this room and that bathroom. Everything else was just completely torn apart. There was no insulation in the walls. I had the wood stove downstairs. I did do everything to code, and I had inspectors come in and they inspected it. So everything I was doing was legal, but it wasn't a great way to live at the time. At the time, we didn't have any kids, so we lived in here, and it wasn't as much risk because we didn't have kids. So at the time, what I had was a little tiny kitchen right here. And then I had my computer right here, and I had my bed right here. And we had everything we needed. We just needed this in the bathroom, and that was it. And then for heat, I had the wood stove downstairs, which at the time was great because wood was free. I was getting it off of jobs. So this wood stove carried us through many winters. And it heated this house with no problems. We actually really like this. I still like this wood stove. But I remember at the time when I first bought this house, this entire yard was filled up with logs and like split wood and sawdust. And I was just bringing home logs from jobs, and I was cutting and splitting them right here. We had a whole operation. I was even selling some of that firewood at the time because I didn't have a lot of work, because I had just moved here from across the river and I didn't know anybody here. And so I didn't really have a lot of work at the time. So I was trying to do anything I could to pay the bills and to just pay that $500 a month for the mortgage as well as the taxes. So we were really scrounging for quite a while there. And eventually I started picking up work around here. And once it started picking up, it never stopped. Always had work since then. I just didn't know anybody in this county or on this side of the river. So I didn't have any customers. I had to start fresh. I think I was putting ads on the bulletin boards in delis and stuff, and I eventually got a few customers, and all it took was like 2 or 3 customers, and they referred me to other ones, and I just kept going from there. I was still doing some work across the river, but it was not ideal because it was a long drive. So long story short, it was very rough for the first few years living here. I took a small mortgage out for like 70 grand just to pay for like materials to put into the house to build this addition here. So that loan took like 6 months to get it done before I finally got the money. And so once I got the money, I immediately started working on this addition. We put in the foundation and then just built up from there. Basically, the main purpose for this addition was to have a bathroom downstairs, this one, because there wasn't enough room for it before, and then have a small pantry right here to store food and stuff, because before the outside wall was right here, and so this is all there was, just a kitchen here. And I actually framed up a bathroom in that corner. But by the time you did that, the little bit of room that was left here for a dining room, it was just not ideal, and I didn't want a bathroom right next to where you eat. So we ended up scrapping that idea. And there's not room here in the living room to put a bathroom either, so I really wanted a bathroom downstairs because it only had a bathroom upstairs when I bought the house. So that's why I put this addition on here. And then also on the second floor, I was able to expand that small bedroom and turn it into the master bedroom, which wasn't totally necessary, but being the fact that I was already putting the addition on there, the foundation was still going to be the same, the roof was still going to be the same, the only difference is I'm just adding walls. So that was a no-brainer. We went with the second story for the addition, and while I was at it, I just made the cathedral ceilings, made that the walk-in closet. So once we did that, we were able to move out of that bedroom, move into this bedroom. So that all ended up working really well. The addition was what this house really needed. Right around the time that we put the addition on, my dad gave me these stairs for, I think it was a Christmas present. So he came over and together we put in these stairs because the old stairs were really raggedy and they were painted over, and I didn't want a painted set of stairs. But the biggest thing about them was the fact that the treads were very worn down. I didn't want to try to restore them because they would just always have that really worn down look. So we just put in all new stairs. It was actually kind of tricky how we did this. We had to put in the stringers first, and then we had to put in the risers and the treads afterwards from underneath. So as far as the framing, everything in the house seemed to be framed pretty good. The only thing that we had to add, I added this LVL beam here because the joists are going this way and it was just bouncing a little bit more than I liked. Putting this LVL in here really helped out a lot. It made that floor super solid. And I also did the same thing here by putting in that LVL there. Because again, the joists are running like this, and that's like a 20-foot span on them. All the framing in this house was a true 2x, so it was actually 2 inches thick, not 1.5 inches. Eventually I got to the point where I needed some other source of heat besides just the wood stove. That way, if I'm gone for a little while, the house doesn't lose the temperature. So then I installed this tankless water heater, which is also a boiler. So it's a boiler and domestic water heater. And this is a condensing unit, so it's very efficient. So I just had to run PVC for the vent. All the electric in this house is 100% brand new. The plumbing is 100% brand new. The insulation, the sheetrock, the trim, everything is brand new in this house except for the old framing in most spots. These interior walls are all new framing, but the exterior walls and the roof and the floors are the original framing from 1890. And I actually took it a step further with the insulation, and what I did is I had a flare gun, thermal imaging gun at the time, and what I was doing was sealing up all the little leaks in the winter. You could see them, they would show up as like a dark blue or black spot where there's air coming in. And so I sealed off everything, and then I took 1/2-inch foam and I stuck it in between each stud in each bay, and then I grate sealed around that expanding foam. So you could kind of call that like the poor man's spray foam. So between sealing it up with that foam and the great stuff foam and the work that I did before that, there was absolutely 0 leaks into these walls. So I sealed up this house. It took like an entire week to do that. and I just sealed up everything. That way I knew that this house didn't have any drafts and it would be super efficient in the winter, which was very important to me because if I'm gonna be doing this much work, I wanna make sure that there is the most efficiency that can be had in this house. And then when we were doing the siding on the outside, I also put fan fold insulation on the outside too. So with that and sealing it up and the insulation that was in the walls, it was overkill. And then I also went up in the attic and I put, I think at least 2 feet of the blown in insulation in the entire attic. So then at one point down in this basement, I wanted to just have this little room here for like a little music studio to make music and stuff in. I put a lot of storage shelves in here to keep everything off the floor just in case it got wet. Funny story, I actually rebuilt a transmission in this basement. I had a Dodge Ram 3500 dump truck that was automatic and I bought it with a blown transmission. So I actually took the transmission out of a Chevy and it was a NV 4500. If you're familiar with Chevys and Dodges, you know the NV 4500 is a very popular 5-speed transmission that goes in there. So I actually took it out of the Chevy. I converted it to be a Dodge transmission by upgrading a lot of parts in it because the Dodge version of that transmission was much heavier duty. So I actually rebuilt that transmission right here on this table. That's what those stains are for. Kind of hard to get that transmission down here and back up again by myself up the stairs. But I managed to do it and it was sitting in here for a little while, but I got it done. And then I put it back in the truck. I'm gonna show you guys that truck at one point because I literally have hundreds of hours into that truck rebuilding it. And I'm just waiting to get my new garage to stick it in there and then I can continue to rebuild it and just get it done. So as far as this kitchen goes, all these cabinets were made by me. Over this building here on the other side, there was a big maple tree that fell down and I actually took that maple tree and sawmilled it up and made all these cabinets. So all these cabinets have solid rails and stiles, and then this is actually 1/4-inch panels that I milled up and then planed down and put in here. And you can see this spalted maple is really neat. It's got a lot of character in it. So all these panels are not plywood. They are just panels that are milled up and then planed down. So you can see there's all this cool stuff in here. Lots of character in these cabinets. The only thing that was plywood would be the bottom, the back, and the sides, which wouldn't make sense to use panels because panels that are thinner like this, they can split and stuff when you start fastening them. These panels are not fastened at all. What I did is just dadoed out the rails and stiles to accept it so that it's floating in there so it can expand and contract and not break things. So there's no glue or fasteners or anything in these panels. And these cabinet doors were put together with a mortise and tenon and glued together. And so there's really no fasteners in them. Everything is glued. But these panels are really nice. It would be very hard for somebody to want a kitchen like this and try to call somebody that could make a custom kitchen like this. It would be extremely hard. Not only did I do this, but I actually did it out of wood that came from next door, which is, it adds more to the history of everything. called Spalted Maple. It did take a long time to make these cabinets, but I made them for pretty much free because all the materials that I got were free. So then you guys saw I put this concrete countertop on. That was a lot more work than I thought. I probably won't do that again, but it turned out pretty good. I like the color and everything. As far as the siding, I tried to keep as neutral as I could with the color. I actually really like it. I love the color. And then I matched it with the bottom there. I painted all the brick. So I took a $28,000 house, turned it into, I'm selling it for $280,000. So that's a pretty decent profit. Now I did still have to pay the 70 grand back because I wasn't able to pay much of it off because, you know, the 30-year loans, you're barely paying anything on the principal for a while. One thing that most people don't think about when you think about these equations is the fact that I also lived in this house for close to 10 years now. So think about how much you would have paid in rent if I didn't have this house over 10 years. Just say like, you know, $1,000 a month minimum around here. That's $12,000 a year. That's $120,000 in rent that I saved. So overall, I think that's a really good deal. And when I bought this house, I wasn't nearly as skilled as I am now. I actually learned a lot of my skills while I was living in this house. I did a lot of construction, but I really didn't get into plumbing. I didn't do any tiling. I didn't ever make cabinets like this. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't do. I did do a lot of like framing and sheetrock and taping and siding and putting windows in, electrical and stuff like that. But the tiling that I did around these showers was something that I've never seen anybody do before, which is basically you use the same tiles as a border and you miter it going around there as a border, and then you put them going vertically. That's kind of unique, and I really do like it. I might do the same thing in my new house. So I think that's enough rambling on about this house. I wanted to do it though because this is the last chance. Tomorrow is the closing. So after that, I won't get a chance to just kind of show it off anymore. And I hope this video might inspire somebody else to do a similar situation. I'm sure a lot of you have done the same kind of thing as me. Really penny pinching and just trying to make things work with every penny that you have to put into the house. But you know, you just kind of pull through and then eventually it all worked out. So where do we go from here? Well, I have a bunch of things planned out. Let me show you right now. What?